Good afternoon. This is Chandra Easton here from astrologyhealing.com, giving you a bit of an update for April on some of the astrological patterns that are impacting our lives at the moment. You'll be able to see the chart that I have up here, and the most striking thing in this first week of April is the T-square that's running from the Mars, Saturn, Venus triple conjunction in Aquarius. Square the nodes. The nodes represent the past for humanity and the future for humanity, and Saturn's the planet of karma. So we're standing at a crossroads between a rock and a hard place. The south node that affects all of us is in the 23rd degree, the degree of separation, and for the last few months the nodes have been moving through the degrees of separation, and the Dark Brotherhood and the shadow influences on Earth would love to separate us and distort us and make someone right and someone wrong. And we need to recognise that this is the game and refuse to buy into it. Certainly on the world stage we have the Russian war against Ukraine, and the Western media has demonised Putin, demonised Russia. They're the bad guys, they're wrong, everything that the West does is squeaky clean. Well, I don't believe that for a second. We've spent the last couple of years being lied to by those in authority around so many things, not the least of which has been the danger, the health danger via the pandemic. It's been used to cripple and to control and to corral people in direction that the authorities would like them to move, and the continuing ongoing corralling of people through a media war. Media, think these three planets in Aquarius, Mars and Saturn's the war that's dividing and separating humanity. It would be wonderful to think that there were some politicians with heart who were not involved in this game, and yet now we hear the politicians, it's like they're all singing from the same song sheet, and this is the demonising of Putin. Every atrocity that occurs, every bomb that goes off, every missile, if you'd believe the Western media, has Putin's name on it. Well, I don't know what the truth of this is, but I ask you to take 3 steps back and recognise that we have a propaganda war going on as well as a physical war. And the purposes from the Dark Brotherhood is to divide and separate and conquer and to leave us impotent. And the purposes from a spiritual perspective are to renounce the personal will. See the North Node in Taurus here and the Taurus Ascendant. Well, just ignore the Ascendant because I've just picked a random time here. I've done this for Australia. Yeah, but I'll just jump around the chart a bit. There are 5 planets in Aries in this first week. The Moon, Mercury, the Sun, Chiron and Vulcan. It's a dynamic period. We're 11 days past the autumnal equinox here in the southern hemisphere, approaching Easter next weekend. The Aries energy in its highest vibration is a birthing and a movement forward, and its lowest vibration has got a great deal to do with war and selfishness. So I think both are happening. I think there are aspects of the human population who are birthing greater consciousness and looking forward. And there are certainly governments and organisations and body corporates who are working selfishly, using the media to control and distort all kinds of facts for their own selfish ends. What else can we see here in this chart? We have the unaspected Pluto. I did talk about the unaspected Pluto, which stays pretty well out. It comes in and out of aspect in the second half of 2022, but it comes primarily into aspect early in 2023, around about Easter time, I think it was. So while the Pluto's unaspected, we have the end. It's like a state of suspended animation. Almost like, you know, when you see a building being detonated, an old building, and they lay the gelignite, and everyone stands back and they hit the plunger, and then they count 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 seconds, and then kaboom. So the big kaboom is around Easter next year. but we're in a state of suspended animation. Don't lose heart. Don't buy into the media campaign, the lies, the propaganda. Don't separate from others. Don't get involved in wars with others. Okay, let me move it forward. I'll just what am I looking at here? I'll go this way. Excuse me a minute, and I'm going to go forward a week to the 8th of April, and that was yesterday. One thing that you might notice here, we still have 4 planets here. Not 5 now, we have 4 planets in Aries. We still have the square Saturn to the nose that actually sits there all month. It's a very dynamic month. Pluto's still unaspected, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But Jupiter and Neptune are getting very, very close to a conjunction. That conjunction, I did write it down, now I can't quite remember it. We'll find it. It's the 14th of April. Now the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, Jupiter's associated with grace, and it's also associated in Pisces with compassion, altruism, but it is from a broader perspective associated with those souls who are really not willing or able or interested in working on themselves. They're just taking the path of least resistance, following the path back down the spiral rather than up the spiral. When Jupiter conjuncts Neptune, we have spiritual grace descending, and of course this will be descending around the Easter festival from the 14th through to the Easter festival. What spiritual grace looks like, think about a parent who's trying to teach a child a lesson. Now the child might feel that the parent's restrictive or harsh or uncaring, but in fact the lesson the parent is trying to teach the child is coming from the heart of compassion and grace. So the lessons that come to humanity in April will all be as a result of spiritual beneficence. And what spiritual light does is it shines upon darkness. So let's hope that more people wake up and see deeper and recognise that they've been conned and had by the media and corralled and forced into particular agendas and forced into taking sides or forced into an internal or an external war. Best way we can use the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is to see where can we be of greater assistance through selflessness to others. Okay, I'm going to move it on to the 15th of April, roughly the middle of the month, and here we're approaching the Easter festival. I think we might be Good Friday, I think. Is that right? Yeah, this is Good Friday. So of course Good Friday is associated with in the Christian tradition with the Lord Jesus and the sacrifice that he made whilst trying to wake people up in his era and his time who were blind and couldn't see what was right in front of them. There are a lot of people who are awake, and there are a lot of people who are trying to assist others to wake up. There are many people on the planet who are half awake. Yes, and so this accelerated awakening is always very important as we approach the major spiritual festival of Easter. But have a look and notice that here on Good Friday, the Sun and Pluto are coming into a square. And if I move it through till, that's Good Saturday, and that's Easter Sunday. Yes, so what I can see there is that around the Easter festival, we have a T-square set up between the Sun and the Moon and Pluto. I think of the teachings of how we all have the opportunity to pass through into the holy realms, but we need to go through the eye of the needle. There's something about this Sun-Pluto square, the Moon-Pluto square, and that's happening on Easter Sunday that reminds me of the eye of a needle. And we have to leave behind our prejudice and our fears and our anxiety and choose love. Okay, I shall move on now to the following Friday. I'm just doing a bit of a sketch. Here I've moved up to the 22nd of April. This is the Friday after Easter. You'll notice the crossroads, the humanity standing between a rock and a hard place is still there. Pluto has still got some aftershocks going on. I have recently done a talk on Mother Pacific, the ocean, and the role of Pluto as a volcanic energy, because Pluto has many themes. One of them is volcanoes. One of them is the detonation of organisations and structures or governments where power is being misused. Another's to do with spiritual rebirth. Yeah? So some of us will be having a spiritual rebirth, be able to go through the eye of the needle. I'm hoping that we have an Australian election coming up in May. I'm hoping that some of the leaders who've built their case on selfishness and greed and the manipulation of power and control, I'm hoping that they fall from grace. But what I wanted to point out to you here is the 4 planets in Pisces that are set up here in this third week of April: Mars and Venus and Neptune and Jupiter. So the Jupiter-Neptune conjunctions move past exactitude, but the sign of Pisces has got a great deal to do with Europe, but it also has a great deal to do with the Pacific Ocean. It's got a great deal to do with water and oceans generally. Certainly in Australia we've had many months of rain. We've had flooding that's extended from Fraser Island down to Nowra, south of Sydney, coastal inundation, riverine flooding. We've currently got a low, which was a cyclone, it's turned into a low and it's heading for New Zealand at the moment. So it's possible that more of the flooding or the riverine or estuary, oceans inundating the estuaries, running into the floodplains. We've had some towns in Australia that have literally been wiped almost off the map, completely destroyed, because much of the east coast of Australia is built on low floodplains. Very, very dangerous. Not a good idea to live near the coast of any continent. So there's those 4 planets in Pisces. But we also have 4 planets in the North Node in Taurus: Sun, Vulcan, Uranus, Mercury, and the North Node in Taurus, the sign of the Buddha, as we're approaching the Vesak festival. Yes. So 2 weeks after Easter and 2 weeks before the Vesak, we'll have the new moon. But here we are with the lineup of planets in Taurus, which gives this strong sense of spiritual will, the Shamballa energy beginning to descend into Earth. And for many people, the Taurian energy is simply to do with the accumulation of wealth or profits or money or security. But it is important that we use our wealth or our profits or our money, our security, for the good of others as well as the good of ourselves. The nodal axis has moved out of the almost, not quite, still in the 23rd degree of Scorpio. Whenever you look at a Taurus lineup like that, we must look at Vulcan, which is the esoteric ruler of Taurus. And there may be some fiscal issues going on. Look, it could be that the cost of living continues to rise, which makes for crippling economic crisis in many places. It could be that the sanctions that NATO are placing on Russia are crippling the ordinary people in Russia. It could be that the people in Ukraine continue to have major crises associated with housing and livelihood, any or all of those issues. We must talk about that because Saturn still squares the nodes. Saturn's still in Aquarius. The Mars and Venus have moved on, but this crossroads that humanity have been standing at it's still in play. Think of it a bit like an enormous traffic jam, you know, and the holy ones are weighing the different nations, the karma of the different nations, the karma of the individuals, the karma of the group, into those who are operating from the heart with care and those that are continuing to operate with selfishness. Okay, if I move forward another week to the end of the month, there we are on the 29th of April, and we're approaching the new moon, which is actually the day after. If I go through to the 30th, or almost, it's the very early in the morning of the 1st of May, or the 30th, we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Taurus. And this particular solar eclipse is, I think, significant because it's occurring halfway between Easter and Vesak. It's occurring in the Antarctic. It's an eclipse that favours the planet Jupiter. So this expansion of lessons, the expansion of water, the expansion of possible floods, the expansion of suffering in Europe, any or all of these things are likely to be on the increase as we approach this eclipse, 30th of April, 1st of May. We still have the Shamballa energies strong, the divine will strong. Yes. Anyway, this has been Chandra